Baptist.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, would you please do the roll?
Robert Mueller,
Here.
Dina Kreitler,
Here.
Jan Braun, Sarah Menard, Mary Beth Ferguson, Kelly Fowler, Laura Oliver,
Here.
Michael Hankins, Kathy Walls, and Beth Caldwell. We do not have a quorum.
Okay. So basically, we do have, we'll just count this as a working session. And we will not be able to approve the agenda or the minutes of the previous meeting. There are no citizens to be heard that I can see. So I guess you can go ahead and just kind of talk
Jump
about
right
your...
to the report.
Yep.
Thank you.
Here, Martin.
So we just skip citizens to be heard. You want to be heard?
So, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Just wanted to run over a few things this morning. On the first sheet there, you have the, this is a detailed spreadsheet of the visitor center tracking. Normally, what I show you are, the pie chart with the color bars, and then I usually reference these numbers down at the bottom, but I thought, this time let's actually have all the data here. So, as you can see, the month of August, we had 3,303 visitors logged through the Welcome Center, and that was up 21% over August of last year. Our year-to-date, we are up 14% on the calendar year-to-date, which is, as we talked about last time, with all of the dates that we were closed and so on, were impacted by weather, and the early part of the year is really pretty good to be up 14% over the year. And of course, we're coming into our busy season, busiest season probably with the fall. So those are the numbers. July was, as we talked about this last time, but July was down a little bit on the month, but our strong spring numbers kind of carried us through to stay positive on the year-to-date. The next sheet you'll see is the passport sales during August. We had 132 adult passports compared to last year. The August bar, you can see it's a little bit lower than August of last year. We had 174 adults last year, and we had 8 students, and last year 17. So the passport sales were down a little bit in August.
They look like they've been down pretty much from previous year, the whole year a little bit. I think if you look at the purple bar, it's always either equal or except for maybe
May we exceeded, and
just a little
June
bit.
we were right at the same level. But one of the things, several things could impact this. When we tell people about the passport program, we're telling them about all the places that they can see on the passport. And except for Saturdays and one tour on Sunday, the Amaro House is closed all the time. And so I think that impacts people, because when they watch the video, which is the 8-minute video, one of the main things that it talks about is the diorama of the town, and the fact that you can see that in the Amaro House. And I mean, I don't know, we might want to have a discussion with the resource committee about that.
Well, one possible solution is to take that building off of the little card and just, put Felix Valley on there and let Felix Valley explain if it's open or closed.
That would certainly be.
So we might want to sit down with Donna
Possibility, yeah.
and talk that.
Yeah.
Has the museum been closed, or?
They changed, because we have more people, usually on a Monday, then, they were closed on Monday and Tuesday. And they've switched to being closed on Tuesday and Wednesday, because in terms of just foot traffic, we have more foot traffic on a Monday than we do a Tuesday, Wednesday. So we're gonna see how that works out. And then there were some times when they didn't have electricity because of the construction at the Rozier Building.
Yeah,
So-
us too. It affected the
Strange
chamber
things
office
going on.
and the museum, yeah. At
So-
least once a week for probably the last 5 weeks.
Losing power once a week.
We're either losing power, we're losing our phones, or we're losing our internet, and it's something, our wiring is tied directly into the Rozier Building, the museum, and the chamber, and everybody else is on their own thing.
Can I ask you something? Do you
Sure.
have U-verse?
No.
No?
We have Big River.
Okay, just curious.
So, did they know this was gonna happen, or the power outage?
Yeah, they do. They
So
have
you
to.
get notified? It's gonna-
No, we don't get notified. They normally think that by the time they turn it off in the mornings, at like 7:30, it'll be back up before we actually open up our doors, but sometimes it's not been like that. You know.
Well, that wouldn't explain the mystery of why we're always losing Big River internet access here at City Hall, down at the
No.
Welcome Center.
That's a Big River AT&T issue.
Yeah.
That's a fiber optic
Fiber
line
optic,
cut.
yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
So where are those getting cut if they're not at the construction sites? Do we know?
I think the last two, the last two were cut out on M Road.
Oh.
Mhm. So that's just what Big River tells us. I don't know how
Yeah.
accurate that is, but that's what they tell us.
Well, so that's definitely one possibility, because we do try to explain to people that if they're going to see, more than two of the houses, the passport saves them money, and everybody wants to save money. So they usually go ahead and get it, especially if they're within a close enough drive time, because the passports don't expire. They're in a close enough drive time. We try to emphasize that. So even if you don't feel like you want to tour 5 properties today, you can tour 1, 2, 3 of them and come back to St. Genevieve again. So we really try to push that. But
You're still keeping data by day, your visitors, so we can go in and take a look, like Monday
which
versus?
days are busiest?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. So that was passports, and the next page in your chart is it's getting smaller and smaller each time. You notice as we add more months to it. But this is kind of a highlight of some of the revenues and expenses for the Welcome Center and tourism in general. The reason for the highlights is that Sue Schweiss prepares this, and she had some changes that she had to go back and make to those June and July numbers, figures that came in maybe after the month, and so that would have been different than you might have seen on a previous report, so we just wanted to highlight that. So you can see that in the printing line item, we don't have much in there yet, but we did quite a bit of printing in the last couple of months that the invoices just haven't been processed yet, so you'll be seeing more in the printing line item. And we did move $1,000 from printing over to postage and shipping, because we were shipping out a lot of packets to tour group planners, and also to school buses or school groups to bring groups in here. And we send out visitor guides to all of the visitor centers in the state, and pretty much any place else we can find to send visitor guides, we're sending them. So we mail those all the time. So we were getting pretty close on our postage. It was originally at $2,500, so I asked for that change, and the Board of Aldermen approved that.
Tina, do you think that do you feel like you're printing or mailing more of the brochures? Because I know in our office, it seems like we are
Getting more
mailing.
requests?
Right, for the hard copy versus the online version of it, because I think our postage last month was up too, due to that,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, and I think it could also be an older
Right.
demographic is
It was.
requesting those hard copies.
Mhm.
So, yeah, but that's good. I mean, they're taking the initiative to call
Sure.
and ask for it. And I also think that, like, when I go and do outreach activities, like I'll meet people at, conferences or like at the state fair, directors from other visitor centers, or, CVBs or whatever that we might not have been aware of previously. And so I'll get back and we'll send a bunch more out too. So the good news is we're, trying to push it out there. And this is a little bit off the subject, but on that regard, I have been looking at all different types of proposals, including digital media, which we already have done some digital media, cable, and we've done some advertising with Charter Cable. And also, years ago, we used to have the St. Genevieve Visitor Guides included in a rack distribution program with the hotels and businesses up and down Interstate 55. And they are running a special over the next few months where if you haven't done it before or you haven't done it for a while and you want to get back into it, they're offering a special rate. And so I'm getting an inventory of how many of the visitor guides, that we have in the various styles. And that'll probably be something that we take a look at with the next fiscal year.
You can compare what you're mailing out to places up and down the, because this was both visitor center and hotels. Was this Madden that was doing that?
It's called CMI.
CMI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
well,
map company. It's a specialist map company. It's not through Madden Media.
Okay.
Jan, you probably remember back when we used to do that.
Yeah, and I'd like to just throw in 2 cents on this issue. The reason we stopped doing it is because we had no way to know that they were just taking cases and cases of brochures that we paid a lot of money for and throwing them into the dumpster. They would not even discuss tracking. That was a huge problem. And I think we need to hold our feet to the fire on this issue.
So
There's-
they were not actual, like if you went to like the
Well, you've
Super 8 motel.
you've read stories and you've seen videos about UPS drivers throwing junk into the sewer and so forth.
Yeah,
Postal workers.
yeah.
That's what we were concerned about, because their numbers were outrageous, their demand. But they had no way of saying, even in our interest of fine detail of saying, are we sending more in the St. Louis, Kansas City thoroughfare or the St. Louis, Memphis thoroughfare? No way. Can't help you with that question. Well, really, what happened to the last 30,000 brochures that we gave you, we asked you to distribute? I don't know.
Oh,
So I think what it is having a discussion up front with them about,
Either we do this and track it, or we just don't do it, because it's a black hole. That's just history that I'm retelling. I'm not recommending anything. I'm just telling you why we stopped doing it.
A cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Right.
well, I would, yeah, because there are people that they pay to go into all the hotel lobbies and put these into the
Sure,
rack, and that's
absolutely.
the service that you're essentially paying for.
Right.
So
And
if that's
and-
not happening. then
Yeah, and
that's-
if members of this committee or friends of this group travel and go into these places and don't see our brochures, they wonder why.
Mhm.
That's what brought it up.
do they have a list of hotels? and-
Yes, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can you modify that list and just do selected ones? I mean,
You can choose, like the I-70 corridor or the I-55 corridor. You can
Okay.
choose, there are categories, like obviously we would want to be in the hotels and motels. And so the other categories are like corporate lunchrooms and things like that.
Yeah.
I definitely think the hotels and motels would be the way to go. So they pare it down, pretty specifically to who you're trying to target. But I would
do they
definitely.
do CVBs and visitor centers in towns that aren't the states?
Don Knowlton would be a guy to talk to about this, because they service the microtel.
Ask how often he sees a rep.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I think the question is, what's the expense versus the exposure we can get, and having you just couldn't get a cost benefit
Right.
analysis done.
Right.
And, kind of comparing it to where we're sending it out. I mean, we're doing mailings on even brochures to certain people.
Mhm. Well, the thing about these hotel and motel lobby racks is that they're owned by the distribution company, so you couldn't just walk in and put some in their rack if you wanted to. The next time the
Correct.
rep comes along, he's gonna take them out
Correct.
because
Mhm.
you're not paying their service to be there. So
That's a great service. I just
Yeah.
don't understand, I never have been able to comprehend why they won't offer tracking service. I mean, it's so silly, it's so easy.
Mhm.
We put 50 of them at the microtel in June, we replaced 50 of them in July. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely ask some pretty pointed questions
Yeah.
as we're considering their proposal. Yeah, and I told her it would be after the new fiscal year anyway, so. Okay. I think we're talking about the budget separately later. One of the other things that we wanted to talk about was, at the last meeting, one of the things I was bringing up with you was kind of looking back on my first year and some of the, grand plans and dreams that I had for making a difference. And I certainly feel there are very tangible areas where my efforts have made a difference, but I want to do more, and I want to achieve more, and I want us to achieve more together. And I think there's only so much of me to go around, and I think maybe, I was talking with Bob about this, I was thinking maybe that we could, since we're sort of starting a fresh year, take a look at the committees for the Tourism Advisory Council and see, we have some new people and who wants to be on what committee, and then maybe some of these goals and dreams could be worked collaboratively with the committee and getting more momentum for things and making some of these things happen. So that's one of the things that I kind of put together a list for you to consider. And we don't have to go into it in detail, but maybe there would be a way to consider some of these things individually with the committees.
We basically have 4 committees, print, electronic, resource, and what's the other one?
Your committee,
Oh, long range
tourism.
tourism development, thank you.
That's different than resources, though?
Yeah, resources was looking at where we get money and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And those committees were officially adopted because they're longstanding committees, rather than ad hoc committees. We can always take a committee off, we can repurpose a committee. There's a few things, just looking, I think you have your list on the back that I might like to put on there. Also, one of them is group planning for groups. I know we've done some work in the past. I think we need to kind of relook at that as we go down the road. How do we take care of groups? What can we offer them? Meeting facilities, dining facilities, all of that sort of thing. I think our website's very weak in that area. And so I think that was one thing I would want to put on there. I'm not sure if we had the downtown walking map, or we talked about the tear off versus using that, and that's,
Definitely.
yeah, and that's going to take some work of putting that all together and what's going to go on there. The other thing is, our website's probably 5 years old by now. And, you know, we've always talked about making it a little bit leaner, meaner.
We've done that over the past year. We've actually done a lot of changes on the website, keeping it up to date with the most current information,
Okay.
paring down information where we could.
Okay.
And then we had other people who said, I mean, I was wanting to pare it even a little further, and we had some people on the committee that said, you know what, I like the amount of information that's there. So I don't know that that's a necessarily a unanimous thing on the full site. Now, certainly the iBrochure
Helped.
is, yeah, I mean, that's the streamlined version. If you want to see the streamlined version, then you can always go to the full site if you want to. I don't know.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things on the website that I think we probably could do away with, like there's an internet shopping thing
Yeah.
on there that has
Yeah.
nothing to do
Yeah.
with St. Genevieve. That probably,
Well, that was a way to try to e-commerce, like working with Amazon, that if you order books or something, you get paid for, or we get a part of the sale. But, yeah, that
I
kind
don't
of,
think we've ever, I mean.
yeah,
They never did take
yeah.
off.
I think it's taking a look at the website and deciding, is there some things we want to do to it?
Well, I think too that on our website that changing some pictures and stuff around would give it a fresh look.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think if we did that, you know, twice a year or something.
I don't know if on the
Just-
front page, if we could put, you know, like our upcoming events thing, a little.
Instead of the calendar of events, just
Yeah,
actually.
but
have-
highlight something on that front page that,
Mhm.
okay, during the next month, this is coming up, change it the next month.
And I just like, and maybe make it more seasonal kind of stuff, because I know like a couple other tourism websites in their fall, they kind of change their scenery of their website to fall, and during winter, they change their scenery to winter, and just to kind of keep up, and here's what our community looks like in the fall,
Mhm.
here's what our community looks like in the winter, kind of thing.
I strongly endorse that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and not only that, but people, when they come there, they might not be there for 3 months or 6 months, and then they're like, oh, well, this is different, you know? So then they might browse a little bit longer on our page and find something else that they're interested in.
Does your staff have access to change all that now, Sandra, or is it still going?
No,
A
we make,
webmaster
yeah,
changes
we,
everything.
we document all the changes and send it to Chuck Houchin. and
So
he
he's
actually
still
does
doing it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is he
It
still
is.
wanting to get away from that, or?
I don't think so. He hasn't
No?
expressed anything, any interest in that lately. I mean, I don't think that we're sending him an over amount of changes, and they're very simple.
And we're paying for it.
Yeah, and we're paying for it.
Yeah, so
yeah,
I mean, I
don't
think,
see-
you know, if we wanted to do something like add upcoming events to the front page or something, could be done very easily. I think long-term, we do need, you know, we talked about going to a content management system style, so you could do more of the inputs, but it was too expensive.
And too labor intensive,
It's-
I gotta
yes.
tell you. We do not have time to sit there and go through coding changes.
Well, this
and
CMS is a lot easier, supposedly, than,
We might
Yeah,
need
we
another
have-
staff person if we're gonna do that.
But you know what, we have CMS for the chamber site, so I can manage chamber members, and it's still labor intensive. It is.
You're gonna have to set aside a couple of hours.
Yes,
to
and
check
I,
that out.
yes.
but I do think, you know, some of the things we've talked about, just doing a review to see what else we want to change on there, or take something off,
Sure.
and that might be good for the electronic committee.
So some of the things that, that we have discussed before, transportation issues. The first two there, I think we've talked about before, a trolley idea, a shuttle idea. Another thing that is a possibility, and I don't know if this is resources or long-term development, but there are ways to co-op with bus companies to bring tour groups to St. Genevieve. You know, us helping with some of the advertising cost, us helping underwrite some of the expense, so that the person who gets on the bus, instead of paying $100 to take a tour to St. Genevieve, they're paying, you know, 25 or 30. So that's why I have that line item there. So just something to think about, and however we decide, you know, that we want to divvy up these projects, we can look at that. The Saturdays in St. Genevieve program that I launched this summer, As I explained in previous meetings, we were very fortunate in being able to kind of piggyback on a University of Missouri grant program to get folk artists out into the communities, and so that's where we were able to get some of our live music and demos. There are grant programs that we could probably apply to get some assistance in this regard in 2015. The Missouri Arts Council is one of those. The Missouri Humanities Council may have a grant program. So this is just one of those things.
And even the Muni Band, I think maybe we can.
And I've used the Muni Band on a couple of occasions, but these are larger grant programs. Bicycle rentals, this is one of those things that where, if we want younger and more active people to have things to do while they're here, we get a lot of people that request, what can I do while I'm here? They want to be active, and so this is something that we had talked about. Martin and I,
No, go ahead.
Martin and I looked into the insurance issues, and the insurance company assures us that that wouldn't be an issue, that it would be on our existing policy. There's, it's just one of those things going to take some time to develop, and
And maybe a part of that also is some bicycle routes
right.
that we could recommend for people.
And actually, we're working on that.
Yeah.
We're working on longer bicycle routes,
Mhm.
but just around town. These would be just casual. I mean, not like people getting on a bike and biking for 20 miles. This would be like, tootle around the downtown kind of a thing.
Can I
Sure.
did want to mention something. I was waiting tables this morning, and one of our guests said something to me about you're missing, you as the innkeeper, the private business, not the city, you're missing out by not renting bicycles. And I said, yeah, I know. I mean, it's flat, it's generally the historic district anyway. I said, I completely understand your point, but I have to tell you, every year for our insurance renewal, we have a questionnaire. And the very first question is, do you rent bicycles? Because it's like, oh my God, we're not renewing that policy. Now, for a municipality, it's different, I understand. And my conversation led to this point with the guest, that if it was adult tricycles, it would probably be more acceptable, because they're a lot more stable than a two-wheel bicycle. And you can carry a little bit of, local economic purchases and so forth.
Right.
So,
Nice basket back there.
right, yeah. So that's another alternative to think about. And I think again, the B&Bs have a liability issue with their insurance, but in terms of a cooperative arrangement, I think a partnership with the city and the B&Bs might be something to think about, where the B&Bs would be the rental outlet, not just the welcome center.
Sure. I mean, they could be the kind that you could pick it up here and park it there.
Yeah, sure.
Or if the
Paint-
welcome center's closed in the
paint and paints
evening,
and nobody's
yeah,
using
they
it.
might have a bike or
Mhm.
access to a bike at their facility, or bikes, or
Mhm.
know how to get to them.
Yeah. Just something to keep in mind in that program.
Oh, looky there.
Or you can just,
Is that a trike? One of those
no,
tricycles?
They're actually
this is actually
bicycles.
bicycles, but they're, where you can, I actually saw that on I don't know if it was on the History Channel, or if it was on Discovery Channel. They were in another country.
New
And-
York has bicycles, so just
Boston,
put a
Yeah.
quarter in the slot,
Yeah,
take
and-
off.
Take it here and
And you
leave
just
it
rent
there.
it.
Like
and
getting
then-
your card at Aldi's, you put your quarter in.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
and you get it back, exactly.
Well, so I definitely think that's an idea whose time has come. It's a matter of, again, manpower to make it happen. I think the committees, the Tourism Advisory Council, this is a way, that,
And possibly other volunteers from the community that might want to work on something like that.
And it's a kind of a low-impact solution to the whole question of golf carts or trolleys and all that. At least we're doing something.
mhm.
Do we
It's so
have,
light.
kind of a corollary, do we have a driving tour for the county or the whole area?
We have a what?
A driving tour? If somebody,
Like scenic drives?
yeah, scenic drive?
Well, as a matter of fact, that's, did I have it on here? So, other new activities. How many people are familiar with the concept of barn quilts, barn quilt tours? So this is, it's all over the country, and there's one place in Missouri that's doing it, up around Arrow Rock in that area, the Boone's Lick area. So I'll pass these around. There's actually a page in here on it. When I was at the state fair, I met the people from this Boone's Lick barn quilt tour. It's around Marshall, Missouri, Arrow Rock, Sweet Springs, just north of I-70. So you can see all the quilt designs that are on there. And this is a program that ties directly into the heritage of the area, and certainly we have a strong heritage here with quilts in this area. We still have quilting clubs in St. Genevieve County. So it's not only a tradition, it's a current and living program. And the way it works is there's, like, let's say that you identify 10 barns in the community that would be along a driving route, a scenic driving route, and then you approach those landowners if they would be willing to participate in the program. The cost for the program is usually a split between the program and the barn owner, and they usually get to choose the style of, if it's like a wedding ring quilt or a log cabin quilt or farmer's daughter quilt, all these different styles. And there might even be styles that are unique to this community, which would be super cool. Maybe there's a, wine and grape kind of a motif. So they choose, I want this quilt and I want it to be on my barn, and then these quilts are done in huge panels, like street signs almost. They're done on like an aluminum panel that's, weather resistant and so on, and they're mounted, and then the people who go on the tour, you get a list of where these quilts are displayed, and you can go point to point. They can take a picture of it with their camera or their smartphone, and then they come back and get some sort of a token or anything like that. So it's just kind of it's a neat heritage thing. It's a neat tourism thing. It's definitely has an appeal to, that demographic that wants to get out and do a scenic drive. So anyway, that's, I was really intrigued by it. I think it certainly fits with our history and heritage here. I've talked to a few quilting enthusiasts, and they think it would be a great thing. They've actually taken tours to go out to other states, like down around Paducah, Kentucky, and take quilt tours. So it's kind of a neat idea.
Who does the painting?
Well, so the lady up in Boone's Lick that coordinates this, she's I think a retired school teacher up there. She's the one that lays out all the quilts, and she sent me pictures of it. But they just lay them out on sawhorses, and they tape it out. Sort of like working without the fabric, so they tape out the patterns, and then there's a special paint that they use, and then they seal it.
Why couldn't you just take a picture and do a vinyl?
I suppose you could do that.
Like a billboard vinyl. I don't know how much this cost.
Right, so I'm confused. What's this have to do with quilting?
The pattern.
It's a
The
quilt
patterns.
pattern.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
They all have
quilts-
names.
Right.
Yeah.
So do they know how many people have done the tour last year, or what? Do they have a way of tracking besides, they get a passport, is that right, or some kind of?
I think everyone does it a little differently. Some of them, they just pick up a route map and they go out and look at it. I would suggest that probably we would want to make it a little more interactive and give them, like a checklist or a time or, something like that, and then they,
Have to come back into town.
come back, yeah.
Because we've talked about like a hiking weekend or something, and weekends, how do we get them into town to spend
Yeah.
money here?
Which that should probably be on here too, under other new activities, so hiking.
There was a name for those.
Geocaching?
No, well, geocaching's another one, but it's not a hike fest. I don't, a lot of towns do this. They'll set up various hikes and you get like a Stumpfnagel for it or something, but we've got a number of nice hikes around here.
Oh, yeah.
We could do like all through October. Each weekend, we have a different place featured for a hike, and get all four, you get entered in a drawing or something.
Even in the spring, I mean, May is a beautiful month to
Yeah.
get out and, so maybe they could get like a pin, you know, like a hat pin or something like that, and say Hikes of St. Genevieve County or
Mhm.
something. Okay, so, earlier this year, someone who had been to, I think, Gulf Shores, Alabama, came back with a little wooden token that is like a $5 spending token amongst the merchants in the Gulf Shores area. And so I'd like to kind of take that idea and do a fleur-de-lis, like a St. Genevieve Bucks program. I've talked with, there's a car rally that we've booked to come in here on October 12th, and they're interested in doing this kind of thing. And so they might be the first ones to actually purchase some of these as a group. It's easy enough to figure out, well, the whole thing with this is funding, you know. How do you bankroll the $5 tokens that they could then spend in the merchant shops, and then the merchants come and redeem their $5 token and get their $5 back? Well, so it's easy enough when you have a group, because they can buy these tokens for the people in their group and give them out. But then, is there a possibility that we might want to expand it? It's just one of those, you know, an idea that it would be good to, you know, to work with a group of people on developing that kind of a thing. Has
So-
anybody traveled before and seen something like that? Are you familiar with that?
Totally. How is that different for the merchant than any other discount promotion that they do?
Well, it would get the people in the store, you know. We
Right.
have an issue right now that.
I'm willing to give you 10% off a $50 purchase as a promotion.
Well, it's not costing the merchant anything, right?
Right.
So they don't have to offer the discount.
Well, if they're gonna participate, they're offering a $5 without redeeming it.
It depends on if one of the ways, and some models, they do have the merchants chip in to prepay some of these, or a portion of it, like it might be a 50-50 thing. In other instances, they're just sold to the groups, and so it's just like I gave you a $5 bill and said, go shopping in St. Genevieve.
Right, I'm just wondering from a merchant's point of view, if I'm willing to participate in a discount program that, and you implement it through this creative chip. I don't need to bankroll anything, I'm just agreeing to accept that and give a discount when it comes in.
Well, I think that there's probably various ways. I think what you're asking is for a group of us to look at it and
Right,
decide,
look at the
and talk to the
possibilities.
merchants and see if there's a way that we can work this out.
Right, right. And I've talked to the downtown renewal program about it. They like the idea. I haven't rolled it out to all the merchants yet. But to clarify, they wouldn't be offering a discount. The person would have to spend more than $5 in the store to be able to use the $5. So if I have a $10 purchase, I'm going to give you a $5 token and $5 in cash.
That would end up being a 50% discount for a merchant, in the end, you wouldn't want to do that, so.
Right, but it's not, then
No,
they
that's
bring
not
the,
right.
then they bring the token to the welcome
Right,
center and they
right.
get their $5. So they're not giving away a single dime in that scenario.
So who's funding it?
Well, that's exactly the point. If the person isn't purchasing it up front, if the group's not purchasing it for the people on the bus, you know, like if I'm bringing a bus here and I give everybody on the bus a token, then that's pre-purchased. There must be other models in addition to that, or could be other models in addition to that.
May I ask, the example you just used, is that a functioning example elsewhere, where the tour operators do that? Is that who you said,
Yes,
the tour
yes,
operators?
yeah,
That is happening?
yes.
Oh, Cool.
And there are other examples
That's
where.
They just probably build it into the cost of the tour. and-
That's a win-win.
Yeah.
Right, right. So we can, yeah, so this is a program that, that I think could be developed into something larger. And I think it, again, it's another, like a little, you know, something in your hand so that when you come here. Right now, you know, if we have 3,000 people that come through the Welcome Center, men, women, children, whatever, they can walk up and down the sidewalks, they can go into the historic homes, they might pick a couple of the shops, you know. We're trying to get them into more shops while they're here, trying to get them into the shopping mode while they're here, whether it's at a restaurant or a shop or whatever it might be.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I mean, I even think that there could be another program that we could do with like a free wine tasting token. You know, it could say, welcome to St. Genevieve on one side, and this token is good for a free wine tasting somewhere. You know, we could do that with group tours too. So I think it's something that has a lot of potential and flexibility, and, you know, and Fleur-de-Lis bucks just sounds like fun.
Yeah. Question
Yeah.
for Laura.
Yes.
Is everyone charging for tastings now?
I think you can still get like 3 free ones at Charleville, and St. Genevieve's still complimentary.
And Show Me Shop does complimentary wine tastings. That's kind of very unusual when you get out to wine countries, California and stuff. I mean, I see a lot of them that you can get so many wine tastings, but if you pay for it, you get so much off a bottle or something like that. But, I've heard comments that, you know, a lot of people would just go like to the Show Me Shop, taste a bunch of wines, and then decide which winery to go to, and instead of buying a bottle. So you got to look at that. I'm sure you guys do too.
Just can't afford to do it anymore.
Yeah.
There's too many people have used it.
Exactly.
Can I ask you another question? Not to interrupt your flow, but since we just mentioned something about tours, I don't drive around much, but did I see a for sale sign on Husky's operation? Husky bus tours? Up Bloom Stadium?
No, it's at,
Halfway through
it's
Bloom.
in Festus.
Festus, yeah,
Yeah.
close to Festus.
I haven't.
Maybe they had a bus for sale or something, I don't know, I was driving, so. Thought I saw, I was just curious.
I hadn't heard anything.
I hope not, because they're one of the people I would like to get.
Yeah, well, that's what made it come to my mind.
Yeah. So this is, again, this is in terms of vision and upping our game. I know we're always talking about, you know, visual improvements in the tourist experience while they're here. And so one of the programs that we learned about this summer when we went to the Missouri Main Street Connection Program Conference was facade and sign programs where you can partner between like the Downtown Renewal Program, the city, the local business owner, and there are some places downtown that could probably stand to refresh their signs, and hasn't been done for a while. And this would be sort of a little incentive program. Rather than taking it 100% out of pocket, they could apply for funds from this, like a grant/loan program, and get their sign updated, maybe at half the cost that it would normally cost them. I know a lot of cities do this with a sidewalk loan program too. So building facade signs, partnering with this downtown renewal program for that. I also think that it would be good for us to have signs out in wine country pointing people towards St. Genevieve. And, you know, again, that's just a matter of, you know, getting people together and talking about it, finding a way, talking with the landowners, getting permission, having the signs made. Because there's a lot of people going to wine country, and some of them, you know, hop right back on the interstate and leave, and some of them come into St. Genevieve, but I think we should capitalize on the traffic that's out there to a greater degree.
And I think you can do it with much smaller signs than billboards and be a lot less expensive.
Right.
You know, we had one time talked about having one over at the corner of 51 and H, you know, when you come across the bridge from Chester pointing towards St. Genevieve.
That's a great idea.
B is a good highway. People coming out of, I don't know how they come out of St. Mary to get back out of the antique center, but again, much smaller things, kind of like what Frank Rolfe did for, I think he out on 55, didn't he have a small one?
Yeah.
They're still there.
Yeah.
So that's another resource that I think in the, grand scheme of things would be good for us to develop. New shops and attractions, I think everyone's probably aware that we have a couple of pending and recently occurring new shops and attractions. We have a new shop in the little brick building by the Lions Park. It's called Sticks and Stones. We have a new attraction / shop that's going to be coming into the downtown area very soon. That's along the lines of an artisan product. And I think that, just constantly trying to attract and have discussions and reach out, maybe even have second locations for things that might be a popular, a popular tourism attraction here, attraction shop, whatever it might be. I'm thinking right now about the Blue Owl in Kimmswick. They opened up a secondary Blue Owl in Festus. So
What?
Yeah,
there could be
It's
others.
been there a long time.
I didn't know that.
Mhm.
on Main.
One House Springs too, I think.
Pretty good?
Yeah, yeah, she has one House Springs too, I think she has 3 now.
Oh, wow. So, so things like that, I just think maximizing on those opportunities, actively pursuing some of those opportunities would be good. We talked before about embracing the river, so I just wanted to have that on here. I think improving the appearances is important. We did add the sign to direct people from Main Street how far it is to get to the ferry, because a lot of people get that far and they're like, oh, should I keep going? So we did add that sign this summer. I think under activities to develop, people come into the Welcome Center all the time and ask, how can I see the Mississippi River? What can I do while I'm down there? Can I walk around? Can I, sit and watch the river? I think some kind of a structured effort to address that demand.
There was a group, and I think there's still money at CFO for some ferry landing improvements.
Yes.
And then we also have the park, the flood gauge park, I think would be, as we kind of figure out how to move that forward and get that to some point anyway, that it's there's more information there.
More information about the river, yeah, that's a good point. Thinking about that as part of that enhancement. Oh, group, I just wrote this. So, and then I have a photo contest. This is something that, if anyone's interested in getting involved, helping, supporting this, please let me know. We're going to launch a photo contest for St. Genevieve. Megan and I went out and looked at some examples of photo contests in other communities, and there's no residency requirement. It would be open to any amateur photographer, including visitors. The pictures have to be taken in St. Genevieve County between January 1 and the end of the contest, which would be this fall. And the categories that we kind of thought about, let me know what you think about these, or if you think there should be other ones. People out and about, capturing people in their element, artisans at work, people having fun at the local events, enjoying all that St. Genevieve has to offer. Photos that contain distinguishable faces of people must be accompanied by a photo release signed by each person. And then
also, if there's children, you have to have
parental.
They have to be, you got to get those. So I would give them a form that they have to fill out,
With
which
their
is kind of
entry.
like what Folklore, or Folk Arts Society did when they came in. They gave us a whole program on that, and I would suggest you take a look at that form that they have.
So then the other one would be, and this might be divided into 2 categories, but landscapes, landmarks, and historic places. What makes St. Genevieve unique, what makes it beautiful, capture the scenery and unique sites at their best.
And they'll get photo credit on,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And then,
I think you also, just from personal experience, you need to make sure it's acceptable not only for print, but if it's going to be available on electronic or social media. There's all kinds of issues with all of that with photographers, so you just want to make sure you got that covered.
Is there an award?
yes, so the grand prize would be a gift basket containing whatever we would want it to be, but we thought maybe a $50 gift card to a local restaurant, gift cards from local merchants. You know, it's kind of something that we're developing, but,
It's a good idea.
you know, I think that would be probably about $100 grand prize,
That's cool.
plus being chosen and promoted as the winning
Yeah.
photograph. Anyway, so that's something that I thought it's one of those things that would be engaging for the tourist or the resident, whoever it might be, and also, you know, give us more material to work with, and also kind of get some, you know, coverage for the winner.
How are you gonna judge it?
Well, we'd have to have a panel of judges,
Yeah.
so we'll be looking for judges.
No, I think we, you know, having a group of photos that we can use in our advertising and keeping those fresh and
Yeah.
as things change would be.
Oh, that's part of the deal?
Yeah.
Cool. Whether they win or not, we get to
Yeah.
use their material?
Well, I mean, you want to set it up that way,
Yeah.
when you get the permissions.
Yeah.
I mean, the State Parks runs a program on that.
Right.
I mean, so there's a number of those around, but it's a great way to get your available resources for photos.
So, these are, you know, just some additional things, and,
Perhaps I will put a list together, send it out to everyone to see who would like to, which ones they think are the most important in
I was
terms of
just gonna
benefit.
ask you, what would be your preference that you'd like us to get to work on first? I mean, is there priority in your mind?
oh,
I know it's hard to choose.
Take the easy ones first.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, all these things really need to happen.
Some of these things are completely the city's responsibility, not the tourism department, but, I mean, if, I don't have the bullet points.
It
You
should be
guys-
on the
Oh,
back of
Jan,
your.
I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
it's on the last page. Oh, you don't
Oh,
have
he
it
doesn't
here.
have it.
It's right here.
Oh, I didn't,
Apologize.
He's got
That's
it.
it.
oh.
Well, maybe the first place to start would be looking at the committee lists, which of these ideas would fall under those committees, and then let those committees kind of decide who wants to work on what and which things to work on first. Some of these, like the pointer signs downtown, we talked about this a couple of meetings ago. Bob put some effort into this, I put some effort into it, and, you know, we need to get this going. This is based on those signs that we saw in Kimmswick, and looking at the locations where they could be. And, you know, I see people all the time when they are walking around, they're kind of, you know, like squinting down the street, going, I don't know, do I want to walk 2 more blocks? Is there anything worth it up there? You know, and they have the map in their hands, but, you know, sometimes a little visual cue to draw you in that direction, or point and say, you know, there's 12 different shops right up there. There's, you know, 3 things that you can see in this direction, or the church is that way, you know.
They had that in Banff when I was up
Oh,
there
yeah,
last
that's
week.
right,
I
you said, yeah.
sent you a copy of it. Same kind of thing, a post that had 4 slots in it
Mhm.
that you could put different signs in.
So interestingly enough, some of the people from our community went to a meeting at the Blue Owl earlier this week, and turns out the lady who owns the Blue Owl is the one who kind of led the effort to get those signs in Kimmswick that we looked at. And so I'm planning on calling her and asking her who makes your, you know, slide-in things that have the name of the person on them and all that, so. So, there's just, a lot of these things just have to happen, and there's only so much of me to go around.
Right, I think the
Yeah.
idea of let's put the list together, try to assign
Yeah.
them to one of the committees, or if we need some, some of these like signs, we have a little separate committee working on that. And then see what, together with you and the committee members, what do we think is the most important? Again, because we won't accomplish them all in the next year, but let's get started on some of them. A lot of good ideas.
The reason I was surprised about, when you said Mary put a secondary shop, did you say House Springs now?
One out there too, yeah. And Buster.
I've talked to her several times about putting in a St. Genevieve location. I don't understand why Festus was more attractive to her.
Closer.
Closer, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
To
St.
service
Genevieve,
it?
I think, would be a better market.
Bigger population, I mean.
Yeah, sure, all the obvious things, yes, but still, that's the kind of thing that we need to encourage.
Yeah.
from-
And we gotta, and I know on the economic
But
development
House Springs,
side,
I don't get at all.
No.
there is, those are the kind of discussions we need to start having about how we're gonna attract people and make it easier for them to set up, and it's a slightly different hat, but it's a discussion that needs to be held.
That's a Petri issue. Economic development of that sort, encouraging that sort of expansion.
That's actually what I'm supposed to be doing, is
Yeah.
economic development.
Since tourism is economic development,
Right.
and she wears a slightly
Mhm.
bigger hat.
Okay.
Right. But, Jan, I think the House Springs thing, actually, I think she might have a daughter that's there.
I was just joking with Martin, I said something
That there was a family connection, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's right. Because I heard her speak at a conference, and she was talking about her daughter and,
That would be the only motivation, I would think.
yeah, something about donuts, too. I don't know, maybe they opened a donut shop or something? I don't know.
Why not?
One
You
of
should
her-
go in the old donut shop.
I don't know.
One of her main cooks, though, is from St. Genevieve.
Really?
Yeah, Connie Crinsley.
Oh.
Or Bonnie Crinsley.
Hmm.
How about
Gosh,
that?
doesn't Bonnie work at the Festus one though now?
I think she does now, yeah.
Interesting.
So,
Not to get off track, but since we are talking, this sort of segues into this, and I don't know if don't want to put anybody on the spot, but do we have any news about, what is the status of our hiking, biking trail?
Which one?
Levy?
It's only a hiking trail now.
Right, right.
I just got an email yesterday that the state has signed off on the changes that the engineer had to make. You know that story, right?
Mhm.
Plans were sold,
Yeah, yeah.
and the permissions, that
Right.
they had to redo all that.
Right.
So, now we have to wait for notice that the funds have been obligated, and we can't proceed until we get notice from Oakland, Puyallup, that the funds have been earmarked. But that ought to happen, that's just automatic.
Mhm.
Then we can advertise, that person,
That'd
we
be-
have to
yeah.
hire a inspector, engineer,
Mhm.
to be the inspector, and put it out for bid.
Well, I just think that's a really huge draw. I think people would really
Right
love
away, I think we have to look at plans, I don't know, big right of way issue had to do with the railroad, but since that got eliminated, I don't
No,
know that we
I
even have a
don't-
right
no,
of
I
way
don't
issue.
think so,
It's
just
more
more
installing the road
just-
right of way.
But will you have biking going out to the landing, or is it
Well,
just, you can't have
only
biking
because
on the
We had to
lake?
narrow the trail at the floodgate, can't get the proper width for hiking and biking.
Mhm.
And they wouldn't accept signage as an alternative to having the 10-foot width. So.
10?
So the solution was to declare it a hiking trail. I mean, you can't put a bicycle on it, it just won't be promoted
As
and
a
billed as a
Biking trail. Okay. Which kind of reminds me, there's a couple of things I think we ought to add to the list here. National Park Site
Mhm.
and National Wildlife Refuge. I know we've talked, I know John Carroll's talked to Martin and
That was part of what I had under the river, under.
yeah.
either activities developed would be the natural aspects.
Right. The city land that's outside the levee could be a great wildlife refuge. Can't be developed, can't be farmed, so if we can figure out how to get on that map, it would be.
Can't get to it.
If you're
Well, if you're hiking,
if you're hiking along the levee, you can see it.
Yeah.
That's, would be another natural attraction. In your hiking on the levee, do they allow any signage at all?
Well, so far, there is no hiking on the levee.
Oh,
You-
I mean,
You have to cross private property to get on the levee. The only easement across that property that the landowner granted was for construction and maintenance. So I can't promote your going on the levee for hiking or biking.
how do they do the levee loop trail?
They get a
They go
special
through-
permit through
They
them.
open the gate well,
They have to get
the
permission.
property
from
owner
them.
gave one-time permission for that this year, and declared that this will be the only time it does it.
it's an issue that we have to deal with to figure out how to do it, but.
Now, the way you do it is, you get the Corps to release the money that we have, and you approach the city council and suggest to them that one of the ways that the $3 million that's sitting in the bank could be spent is a pedestrian bridge to the levee, going it from the end of Market Street. We have to cross that slough. So there is a plan.
There was a bridge there at one time.
There is a plan.
Okay.
It just, it was part of the vision for the levee. It just, at this point,
The same owner.
as many of those phase
Yeah,
two.
it
Why
is.
don't we put that down as a levee hiking, national wildlife refuge?
Well, I think if you're gonna consider that some way, we've gotta figure out how to knock down the eagle's nest.
Knock down what?
The eagle's nest.
The old marina.
Oh, I'm thinking
That's-
Eagle's Nest.
Yeah. Well, again,
I'm sorry.
it's
I know
not,
what you're talking
the
about.
problem is, that's not in the city, is it?
No, it's-
And it's in the county, and there's no zoning that's gonna,
Well, and there's more
Well,
than one
but,
owner.
but there's
It's-
got to be a
It's a group.
solution.
can the,
There
can
would
can
be
the
if you get 'em
county,
to
can the
sell it.
county
It's a
declare
$2
something a
million
hazard?
solution. Huh?
Can the county declare something a hazard?
It's certainly a hazard.
It
No
is.
question about that. I mean, that would be a great place. It was a great place.
It was a great place,
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's all
And it
private.
could be a great
land.
place, again, just getting, I mean, it was okay when it was a sports bar. It was fine. It was a destination of sorts. But that whole area, you don't want tourists to go there. But if you knocked it down and.
At least it would be cleaned up.
Exactly.
Not look like a.
You could, you know, you could tell people
bomb
there's
shelter.
there's a boat ramp down there, and there's a
Well,
picnic.
and it's vandalized and
Oh my
all
God,
kinds
it's
of
a
stuff.
disaster.
But you have a group of people who own that,
And
and
that can still be condemned
it can be,
By whom?
yes.
by the county, I guess. I
The
mean,
county
shit.
doesn't have building codes. By what standard do you condemn
Do,
something?
do they have nuisance and hazardous?
I don't know.
No,
Any
Toby,
more
is
zoning.
he shaking his head?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's shaking his head.
He's shaking his head no?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's just a shame. I mean, I
It
understand
is.
the point about multiple ownership and.
So the movement should be to have St. Genevieve County adopt building codes and planning. Good luck, good luck with
If
that.
only
Yeah.
for one, if only for one
Possible.
address.
Yeah. Well, and you would think that the people who are owners in it, I mean, you would think they would want to do something with it,
They do, they sell it.
you know, but they don't want to. Half of them want to sell and the other half don't want to. So it's never going to get
There
sold.
was a party interested in purchasing it, and there was a price quoted. That's all I can tell you. Now, whether there was unanimous agreement
wasn't
among the parties, I don't
unanimous.
know,
No, it
but
wasn't.
you know that. You were
Who's
part of it.
responsible for the maintenance of the road?
I'm not entirely sure who owns the road.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but that's
It's
an issue
outside
too.
the city.
Yeah, no.
Make it part of the city.
Annexation has been discussed.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, that
if there
road's
were
pretty rough. It
some
needs to be.
movement.
I just
That
thought
or
from a
just close
safety
it off
standpoint.
and they can't get back
I mean,
there.
somebody said,
You know, they used to have some
If you
concrete
manage to
barriers
do
up there
this,
after you came across the little guardrail part.
Right
They
now,
had some
it's-
concrete barriers there so you couldn't get back there to vandalize. Well, now they've removed those and you can get back there. I mean, it's just, you know,
Yes, there was
there's
some
some kids
public
doing some stuff
bathrooms.
back there they
Well,
shouldn't be doing.
somebody
Let's just
came
put it
and
that
said-
way.
Yeah.
So.
I will build on it. if
I will
you-
build on it.
Yeah,
And
Go
it's
ahead.
spray painted and it's just,
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
I think it needs to stay on the list of things to do.
I think the group is unanimous that something should be addressed there.
It's amazing how many people drive back there.
oh, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, well, why not?
And that's what I'm
So
saying,
down.
if they can't, if they put the barriers back up to where you can't get to the actual marina building itself, I mean, they can just turn around in that
I
big
think
gravel
they
parking
lease,
lot.
they lease mooring rights during some high water
Yeah.
to some barge company.
Well, I think, do people
Yeah.
still launch there when there's water in
Oh,
the
you bet.
lagoon?
Well, the water's gotta be pretty high.
Yeah.
I pick up guests there all the time.
Mhm.
I have a shuttle service, you know, when the river's high enough, I pick people up, they moor their, you know, I put their canoes on my roof.
The original plan, as I understand it, was that the ramp, the harbor, like a better term,
Yeah.
would be maintained by the owner-operator of whatever's there, by bringing in a workboat and having it, you know, rev up its engines.
And blow that out.
Blow it out
Yeah.
periodically.
Yeah.
And, of course, that hasn't happened, and as a consequence, it's silted in, and
But,
barely usable.
to bring it full circle to Bob's point about wildlife, I mean, it's a great habitat for eagles and herons and
And
cranes.
taking advantage of the history of Audubon being here.
Yeah,
I mean, was it St. Francisville down in Louisiana had them for a very short time. They make a big deal out of Audubon. That's one of their marketing thrusts. So,
We could apply for, because I have two trail projects
what was the other?
going on right now.
Industrial.
Parkwood.
Oh, right,
to-
Progress
to
Park.
Progress Park. I'm loath to apply for a third one, because I don't want to do.
Don't need to work.
You already give me two, and I haven't got those done, so I'm not sure you give a third one, but it's that every 2 years there's a cycle, a grant cycle, transportation alternative program is what they call it. It used to be called the Safe Routes to School, and this is the cycle. So right now is the application period for non-vehicular.
Well, maybe it's not a this
Grants.
year kind of thing, but maybe it's 2 years from now.
Yeah.
We ought to be ready for what's
That
the
would be
next
a
one.
good source for funding
The
for
bridge.
an access, for pedestrian access to the levee. They won't build roads, but they'll build trails and bridges and stuff.
Okay.
Well, just for the record, I want to, if this is being televised, I don't want to knock down any trees that have eagles' nests in them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of this.
John?
Dead bird.
I totally forgot that was the name of it.
Okay, let's move on here.
Okay.
One thing, I guess, did we hand those out?
We haven't been handed out yet.
Yeah. I had on there the 2014 approved budget. It's really the 2015 budget that I guess has to go through one more.
And it's not approved, right?
Yeah,
Next Thursday.
next Thursday's your final.
Thank you, Colleen.
So I just wanted to point out that the Tourism Advisory Council had seen the draft budget that I had submitted earlier in the year, and the Board of Aldermen asked for 10% across the board, and so the budget that you're looking at now has been changed from that original by the following amounts. In the printing line item, we cut $700. Dues and memberships, we cut $500.
So 3,800 now becomes 3,100 on printing?
Printing, No.
I'm just trying to keep it
This
straight.
38 represents a $700 decrease.
Oh,
I'm-
This is what-
corrected now.
Yeah, this has been
Yes.
corrected.
Yes, I'm just telling you where
What was
the
originally.
changes happened from the one that you saw
Got it.
earlier. So the printing line item is $700 less. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Dues and memberships is $500 less. Travel is $250 less.
Gas was.
Meetings and-
Gas was 100.
Yeah, gas, which is down at the bottom, is $100 less. Meetings and conferences is $250 less. And landscaping is $500 less. Holiday decor is $2,000 less. You'll notice it's a zero right now, so we zeroed out that line item. And building improvements, oops. Martin, actually, we added funds back into building improvement.
$2,500.
25, so this is an old one that she printed. Okay, I apologize for that.
What's the account number you're talking about?
It is on the second page at the bottom, capital outlay 8010.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Building improvements. The original line item there, just so you know, in the budget that you saw, I had $7,700. Last year, the budget was $2,700, and I had increased it thinking that we would probably need to address some air conditioning units. And so that whole $3,200, excuse me. So basically, it was cut back to prior to the FY13 amount. You can see it was $2,700, now it's gonna be $2,500. So there definitely won't be any extra money. I guess if something comes up, we'll just have to ask
Budgets
for.
are plans, so, if something comes up, you
Ask
approach
for-
the board and you say, I've got to make this expenditure, and we brought Peter to make Paul.
Because you have a building maintenance budget too, don't you?
Yes.
But I think this was for major, like your
There's a
the
capital
HVAC,
issue, yeah.
Because that unit's 30, almost 30 years old right now. Okay.
So, and of course, in addition, we have $11,000 coming in from the co-op grant. And on this, the budget line item looks like $22,000. Actually, the Board of Aldermen only have to provide $11,000 of that budget.
Which actually is paid by the tourism bed tax, right?
No, it comes, it's been different over the years. In 2009, it was still paid out of the Tourism Tax Commission. 2010, it came out of general revenue, I
Yeah.
think, and then 2011, 12, it came out, I'm off a year, but the last couple of years, it's come out of the department budget. And the revenues go into the
General revenue.
general revenue. And it's the same thing with things
Lodging
like.
tax revenues goes into general?
No.
The revenue that comes in from the state goes into general revenue account. The revenue that comes in from passports goes into the general revenue account. So they're kind of washes. But we know
And
how
the
to.
tourism tax dollars, while they don't go into the general,
No, that's tracked separately.
Revenue,
Revenue
yeah.
and expenses on one spreadsheet, and the tourism tax,
Yeah.
bed tax thing.
The Tourism Tax Commission has been paying for the billboards the last couple of years, plus the
They'll
television.
make the iBrochure.
Yeah, and the iBrochures, so that, it's looked at in total when we look at what's going on.
It tends to be the bigger ticket items.
but that problem, for any revenue generating department, it's the same problem,
Mhm.
is you
You can't see the revenue.
You don't see the revenue. So if something happens mid-year, and there's an increase in revenues, it doesn't get credited to the department, it just goes into the general revenue.
But we track it, when Sandra showed you that financial kind of report year-to-date, you'll see that there's two kinds of accounts. You'll see the revenue accounts and the expense accounts right next to each other. That's so we know what's going on.
It's an attempt to pull things from different parts of the budget reporting into one sheet.
So that is,
That would have been the second to last page. Yeah, it's on
That's
there.
why we do that, because those things are in different sections.
So if you
of
go to the
city
first
budget.
one, on tour revenue is a 4123 account, which is in general revenue. Tour expenses, 7106, go into Sandra's account, but we're always watching both sides of that equation, and we watch both sides of the Tourism Tax Commission, and though in the Tourism Tax Commission, their revenues and expenses show up in the same budget.
So you see it on one page.
As do the,
Does Water Department?
no.
No.
The revenues that come from dedicated taxes are accounted
Okay, like
for
cemetery
separately.
tax, or, okay, that will show up in its own,
Right.
yeah.
Wait, I didn't understand.
We have a park tax, a cemetery tax,
Right.
a B&B, or a
Right.
lodging tax, and those funds are generally, the steward is an appointed board,
Right.
whose job is to make sure that those revenues are spent for the dedicated purpose.
Right.
Those are tracked separately. And so, we can't spend the cemetery tax, it doesn't get lumped into general revenue and then spent on a road repair.
As compared to, say, Social Security, which we can spend on a war.
Yeah, well,
So am I to understand correctly then that forgive me, but tour revenue, is that actually tourism?
Well, the revenue shows up in the general revenue account of the city, the expenses show up in Sandra's account.
All right,
No,
so
but the expenses are actually, when we pay the expenses for a tour bus that has come here. So it's either an adult group tour, a student group tour.
Sure.
or those are tour expenses.
Or selling a passport, because you handle the passport sales, and that is a tour expense. The revenue from that
Right,
goes into the general revenue.
right.
Well, I'm not trying to put too fine a tooth on this, but this 23,973,
There was a
Is that the
timing
lodging
thing
tax?
at the end of last year.
I'm sorry?
There was a timing thing between revenues and expenses that changed this year. It wasn't, because usually those should all be very close, because you get $1 from any.
Right, and the end of the month, we pay it
Yeah.
out. But what were you gonna ask, John? You were.
this 23,973,
Mhm.
year-to-date, tour revenue, account 4123, is that the lodging tax?
No,
No.
no, there's
No.
a separate account, a separate cost
Do we know what
center.
it is then?
Yeah. So far this year, their revenue is 10 months was 17,469.
That's what I was looking for. Do I have that? Oh, it's.
No, it's another,
You can have this one. That's the Tourism Tax Commission, usually we talk about that report.
and we have I think she updated it for the last month. I think Sue sent that out, or Pam sent that out the other day. I think it's up to about 19 now.
Yeah, so the reports that Sue does and the reports that Pam does are different, so we usually wait till Pam's report comes out.
The problem is.
The quarterly.
Yeah,
Yes,
Sue
yes.
gets, when she gets something in a month, she credits it.
I know.
And then you
But-
got quarterly stuff.
So this probably does this include August? As far as we know?
Yeah.
Understanding that it's a quarterly issue.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, August, it should,
Well, I just
no,
gotta
no,
say-
this one
No, it
wouldn't,
don't-
this
it
one's
goes to
July.
July.
Because there's 2 months, August.
Well, then, I gotta tell you, with the winter that we had, that's incredibly good.
I'm
I'm
glad to
stunned.
have you say that, because it's been stressful.
It
There
has-
was actually, there was one month it was really
sorry.
low.
There it goes.
Yeah,
And then July, actually it must have been August. So the numbers that we got just about a week ago had a big bump in lodgings that had reported their taxes, I guess, for July.
Yeah.
Which I was relieved to see, because
Yeah.
we had a really low May or something, which seemed kind
Yeah.
of random.
well, one of the
But-
things is, the hotel motels contribute 67% of that number, very traditionally, and even
Mhm.
this year. B&Bs are about a third of it, so, and last year I know that the Microtel had a lot of construction people that they didn't have in the first part of this year. They were significantly down.
Mm.
And that had us pretty worried when we were seeing some of those early numbers. And
Yeah, sure.
it looks like we may have a
Trust
shot
me.
at, we should be 20,000. But, if you look back, we've had years of 22, 24. and we need to figure out how to get back to that point.
Well, you're not gonna make up for last winter.
No. Yeah.
Can't get that back.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but at the last meeting I reported, I think there were 11 days that we were closed.
The information center? The
Yeah.
welcome center?
Actually, some of those days I was in there making phone calls to people about who was open and closed or trying to reschedule things, but 11 days when the downtown was really unable to do business. You know?
Had to wear boots.
Yeah.
But actually, I think we looked at the numbers, the number of visitors for the month was still comparable to last year. So the days that it didn't snow, you were getting people
We're
in.
getting people.
Well, I'm impressed.
I'm glad to hear you say that because, you know, we're constantly pushing. Like, I just sent out an email yesterday to all the downtown and the winery owners to let them know about upcoming tour groups that are scheduled and upcoming school groups that are scheduled too, just so they know when they're gonna see, you know, 200 little kids running around the streets. But we're constantly pushing information out, and I don't know how that compares to what was done
No,
before,
I mean,
but
the tourism, yeah, we didn't do it before. Tourism tips, those are great things that you're sending out.
Yeah.
And I think the little cards that we're doing monthly, that, you know, is something that's been good to let people know what's going on, what's coming up.
yeah. Well, and we're also always sending packets out, like anytime that I come across a list or can develop a list, we're sending out a group tour packet, you know, information to them. We go through literally the internet and find senior centers and anybody who could put people on a bus, and we send them packets. So we're really trying to push it, and I mean, you know, if you weren't pushing it, you'd have even less, but I feel like we're trying to get all the people here that we can.
And I've been noticing, you know, some of the bus tours are coming in, like the one we had yesterday. A lot of, we've had some complaints in the past. They come in and they leave, and there's no shopping time or whatever. You know, I think Megan's pushing to get, you know, some time on the schedule so that these people can go to restaurants and do
That's
some
part of
shop-
our standard operating procedures. We push at least 2 hours of downtown walkabout time when a group schedules when a bus company scheduled a group to come here. But they won't always do that. I mean, it's their itinerary.
American Queen is on such a tight schedule, they usually don't do that.
And then the bus yesterday was 30 minutes late. You know, this is a group that was like from a community college, and they were starting out somewhere else, and they came
Mississippi.
through here, and they were 30 minutes late when they got here, so all day long they were just scrambling to catch up. So.
Actually, the tour person wanted to leave at 2 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock, but one guy had to get back for a meeting, and we'd have had 50 people for an hour.
Mhm.
Just that one guy kind of
But
goofed
people
us.
had made their schedules, yeah.
Mhm.
So, believe me when I say we push every possible angle that we can push, and we're constantly, you know, trying to get information into decision makers' hands and to increase the amount of awareness. I think we've got it down to a pretty fine science at this point. But by all means, if you ever come across a tour company someplace and you don't think we have it, I mean, Alderman Teddy Ross just told us about one that we had never heard of from someplace up in Illinois, and I said, give me the information, and we sent him a packet. So by all means, don't ever hesitate. If you know you want to shoot me an email, if we have it, great, but if we don't have it, we'll be happy to send something out.
Okay. I think probably the only other thing, do we have the list for the little card for next month?
Well, so the answer to that is it's already been produced. There's a card around here somewhere. It's already been produced. The one that we had last month has all of the events on it from now until December.
Okay.
Here, this.
Okay, yeah.
These are now being printed on an as-needed basis. And so that was part of what I sent in that email too. The thing about this is that it sticks out of the visitor's guide. So shops and wineries and so on can merchandise it with this handed out with every visitor's guide. But I also emailed this out to all of our tips from tourism recipients.
One thing I've had on my list is, last year we tried to get all the next year's events. It's probably time to start sending out requests for information and setting a due date for organizations to put their events on board so that you're ready in the winter months to be able to enter that stuff.
I sent those out on November 1 last year. I could try to get it out a little bit earlier this year and give them.
There were a few organizations that never sent stuff in. I know we have to work on those a little individually this year. Okay, does anybody else have any other stuff they might like to bring up?
Scarecrow contest, if you guys
Yay.
want to
Talk
get your
about
scarecrows up. And the decoration week is September 29th, and we'll judge on October 3rd, which is a Friday. So we sent it to the St. Jen's School. I haven't heard anything back from Valley to try to get their kids involved. I know St. Jen wants to do something because it's the 100th anniversary of their first graduating class. So we're trying to get like a teachers versus students kind of thing. Might be fun. And I think I have.
It's always teachers versus students.
Yeah. I think it is. I think we have 6 posts that have been reserved so far. So there's 60-something lamp posts in downtown that can be utilized, and I'd like to
I
see.
think it's a great event.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's real fun.
Oh, we have people that come stay with us just because of that.
Really.
Mhm.
I also want to say, and I don't know if it was your bed and breakfast, but I'm pretty sure that it was during 4th of July. Did you have a couple staying with you from Chicago? By chance?
Like, supposed to remember that.
Well, I think they
Thanks.
did stay with you, but I got a really nice card from them a week ago that said they were in St. Genevieve, staying at a bed and breakfast for 4th of July, and they could not believe that we had such an amazing fireworks display.
Oh, cool.
So I thought that was pretty nice, and they said they will be back next year during 4th of July in our community for part of that reason too.
I'll tell you what, every time there is the slightest mention in the Chicago press about St. Genevieve, we get people.
Right?
I mean, it's such a fertile market for us. We need to stay on top of that.
And then last week I had a gentleman from Australia in my office. He was a bicyclist, and he was biking from Oregon to Virginia. And for some reason, he altered his route to come through St. Genevieve because he had never heard of it or seen it. And so I think he ended up pitching his tent like on H Road and stayed the night, and then traveled the next
I
day.
had another
so.
one in my backyard recently. He was biking from Knoxville to,
Yeah.
So, did anybody inquire how he came upon something?
He was in St. Louis the day before, and he plans so many stops like in every state, and so he was going to go to from St. Louis across, I guess, MLK and go into Illinois that way, but then he's seen St. Genevieve, so he came down 61 and then came into St. Genevieve for a
Curious
day.
where he saw it, anyway, how he got it.
It was just that he has he showed me actually, it's a cycling map, cross country, and he actually tears the pages out after every state he accomplishes because it weighs his bike down.
Oh, wow.
So, and he just happened to be thumbing through it, and
So
there
it's
was
on it.
something about St. Genevieve in there.
Great River
And
Road?
Great River Road.
I think it was Great River Road, yeah, and then,
National
or the
Trail cuts through the south part.
MRT or whatever it is.
yeah, the National Trail, he
Goes
did
to-
mention
goes
that
to
too.
Farmington, Chester.
Yes. So he didn't go through Farmington, and then he wanted to see the wine country, but it was a ways off of his route that he wanted to go. So he said he definitely kept that page when he tore it out. He kept that page on St. Genevieve so he can plan to come back someday.
So I have one request of you, Jan. Everyone who stays with you should be given a pronunciation lesson, so when they leave.
St. St. Gimme?
It's really funny, I don't know if you saw the charter ad that's on television every time you turn your charter on now. They misspelled St. Genevieve.
Oh, really?
Oh, no.
It's ST period.
Yeah, that's
And it's a lousy, the voice goes in and out.
What's it an ad for?
To change over, they're going to HD on October the 7th. And if
Oh,
you
so
want
it's advertising to you as a customer?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have much luck getting Charter's attention on anything. I don't imagine we're going to get them to change that.
I do have a question, because I did have another biker comes knock on my door to
Pitch a tent.
pitch a tent.
Glad to hear
How
the
did they get
backyard
your
is
name?
available.
I figured Megan gave him my name because I had one before, but I think I talked to you once about, is there a place that we can direct people
Well, we
and tell the police department or whatever that they're there? I mean,
do not have an officially designated place for people to camp and pitch tents.
Well, my thinking on it, and I've stated this before, is let it slide the first night and address it in the morning. So,
Which we've done before.
yeah. I mean, we don't want to be known as being hostile.
And I think that's why this gentleman decided to go to the end of H Road and camp,
Uh-huh.
because I didn't know of any place. I
Wasn't
didn't
there
know
a
that you
KOA
could
right there?
You didn't know there was a campground?
yeah, there's
On 51 at H Road?
On 51.
Did he use your bathroom?
Oh, he was a nice young man. I talked to him. We went
He
out and bought
stayed at
peanut butter and
the, he
bread
told me he was
for
going
him.
to
Things kind of
tent
neat.
at the
I bet a guy, the
convenience
first
store
guy was from
right
Canada,
there before you
biking
go
to
over.
Costa
But he
Rica.
stayed several hours in town
Yeah.
and ate at, he called the Old Brick the old pub. I thought it was cute. And he goes, it was delicious food. I haven't ate like that in days.
Huh.
So, and then he said he was gonna,
I guess
mingle
if you're
around
really hungry,
town.
yes.
But
I
yeah.
mean, it's just being part, I guess, of being a good community.
I want to throw something out as Debbie Downer, so I want to stick it in so somebody can wind this meeting up on a positive note as compared to what I'm about to tell you. But I just
think
heard
we're at the end of the
today
meeting.
that
No, go ahead.
Farmington's lodging tax is paying to print the Rue de Vin brochures. I'm sorry, I didn't think about you. I mean, that's something
Can
we
you
have to be
confirm or
cognizant.
deny?
No, I don't care, I don't care, I don't
Is
care.
this off the record, or?
Well, no, but it's just a reminder, we have to be cognizant of competition.
I don't think anyone expects, everyone knows their budget is much different than ours.
Well, their town is 5 times the size of ours.
And they've got nothing else to promote.
You can go.
They have a historic,
Where?
yeah, I don't know, but I've seen signs.
Yeah,
That's
right.
interesting, because the Route de Vin is the St. Genevieve Route de Vin, so is Farmington gonna print it with the St. Genevieve Route de Vin, or are they gonna rename it? Don't know.
No, it's St. Genevieve. They're
Are
willing
they
to.
putting their logo on it?
Their website's gonna be on it, which their website's already linked on the page anyway. I mean, they're printing the exact same brochure that we've always printed.
Well, they've been advertising St. Genevieve wineries for years.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Thank
I
you.
mean, they do, they really do. They say, oh, we have 17 wineries.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you that 12 of them are in our community, or in our
Not
county.
in their
You know what I
county.
mean? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But when they pass that lodging tax, all of a sudden, they're awash in cash.
Because they have so many more rooms.
Hotel.
and
Right,
who
right,
is that
right.
their downtown renewal group? Who is the
no,
downtown
that's
development?
it's their tourism.
Right.
Oh, I didn't realize they had an actual
They
tourism.
just formed it.
Oh, they did,
Yeah,
okay.
just
It's only a
within the
couple
last
years
2
old,
years or
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking it
Two or
was just their
three.
downtown development group.
No.
Okay.
So for that matter, on weekends, especially festival weekends, but sometimes any weekend, there are several times when people come or call the Welcome Center, and they've gotten to St. Genevieve without a reservation, really like it and want to spend the night. And we offer to and start calling around for them to see if, we can find a B&B or the Microtel or someone who has a room. Many times, there are no rooms to be had anywhere in St. Genevieve, and we have to refer them to either Festus, Farmington, or Perryville. And so then I fear that, as much as they just fell in love with St. Genevieve, if we have to send them to Perryville to spend the night at the Super 8, chances are they're not gonna drive back here the next day
Oh,
and
right.
do what we wanted them
Sure.
to do. So we're losing people, we're bleeding people on a regular basis on the weekends, and I realize that, weekday traffic is very different and dependent on business travelers and so on, but, we lose a lot of business that we could have by not having more hotel rooms in St. Genevieve vicinity, so just for what that's worth. And because I think it's important to realize when people talk about it, that there's definitely an opportunity there, to build our business if we had more room nights. Not to mention the fact that our grant was cut in half because of the number of room nights that we have. They started basing, as you know, the co-op grant on the number of rooms that you can put tourists into in your designated marketing area. And some of our B&Bs, they don't count because they're too small to hit the radar with the co-op grant program, so. For what that's worth, it's important that the advisory council be aware of that fact.
Okay, well, very good. Let's have a great rest of September, and Plain Air is coming up next week. District conference is coming up next week, and
I had something actually. Do we know when the Rural Heritage flyers will be available?
They're available now. Yeah, they just brought them in this week.
I need to get some.
Okay.
So,
So do I.
Okay.
Email it.
yeah, if they have a PDF.
yeah, it would be.
We
So we
don't have
can,
any here either.
I don't
on our
have a
Facebook
PDF, they
page
just
and all
brought
kinds
me
of
a little
stuff.
stack, so
We-
supposedly
We send out
it's,
email confirmation letters, and we'd like to
Do
include.
you
Yeah.
want
Has-
to,
has
you got
anyone
a
helped
me?
scanner, or can you convert it to a PDF?
I
we
can
could
do-
scan it.
Yeah, just scan it PDF.
It's on brown paper, so it might not be beautiful, but maybe I'll see if they can send us a PDF. So what were you gonna say?
They, what was I gonna say? Oh, I know, maybe we need to look at creating an event for them too on our Facebook pages, because,
It's on ours and it's on
It
the
is?
calendar.
okay,
I don't know, I mean, you could like ours and share it on yours.
okay. I didn't know if you had one on yours yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I also brought this along, if anybody wants to stay after the meeting and look at it. This is this month's Missouri Life magazine, and all these flags are mentions of St. Genevieve. This one in particular, this is our banner ad that shows, our little couple and a cluster of grapes and the keywords that we use. And then all of these are local businesses that decided to, place their ad in our section. And up here is the Bed and Breakfast Inns of Missouri ad, which is kind of neat that, because we couldn't quite fill the whole page, they put that one up there at the top of ours too, so. So this is.
Well, I hate to be Debbie Downer again, but I cannot understand, Greg knows St. Genevieve, why the cover story is about the cemeteries.
And is ours not in there?
Oh, no, our cemetery is,
Missouri's oldest
Is it?
grave.
yeah.
Okay, I just got it yesterday and scanned it real quick, I missed that.
So we always send them our events too, and they included the Spirit
Spirit
Reunion
Oh, good.
in there, because they're kind of focused on cemetery stuff, so.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that frog.
The frog out there, is it kind of by Steelville or Rollins?
It's Waynesville.
Yeah. So,
Good.
anyway,
And that
just
just
wanted
came
to
out?
share that. It just came this week, so I thought I'd bring it with me.
Very good. Anything else? Very good. Have
Motion
a-
to adjourn.
Don't need that.
Oh, that's right.
We
Oh,
still
no,
have
we're in a
the
work
next
Gonna
session.
walk away.
Okay.
Okay.
Happy weekend.
What's that?
We
We
I
don't-
said
we
motion
don't
to
have a
adjourn, he goes,
quorum.
oh, we don't need that. I said, oh, yeah, that's
We
right.
wouldn't have a quorum, we're missing
We're
one.
not-
Oh, you say, I know, I missed a
Anything we
meeting.
change?
Did we change the rules? Bob's Rules of Order?
Roberts?
Yeah, who do you think Robert is?
Channel 7 and 98 TV and web broadcasting are made possible through contributions and donations from viewers like you. Thank you for your support.